My name's Mike Overpeck, and this is my wife, Tara. We're from Goshen, Indiana, and our story begins in April of 2018. I had gone in for a routine physical, and a few days later the doctor's office calls and tells me that my PSA is elevated. They say they're going to schedule an appointment with the urologist for me, and 2 weeks later we're in the urologist's office. He explains to me that I'm young for my PSA to be high, my prostate feels normal, and there's no evidence in my family of prostate cancer. So I shouldn't be upset, but many of you will already know I'm upset. I'm devastated at this point. He suggests we wait 2 months for another test. 2 months later, my PSA comes back even higher. At that point, he suggests we do a biopsy. So we schedule a biopsy, he does the biopsy, and each time either a test is taken, the biopsy, whatever it is, there seems to be an extended wait. And as many of you know, I'm already anxious. This is hard on me. The biopsy comes back, he calls late one evening that I have aggressive prostate cancer. And we don't know what to do with this. We're scared to death at this point. He says they'll schedule a CT scan and a bone scan. 2 weeks later, we're in his office, hopeful that it's not as bad as what we anticipate. But we're wrong. He goes through the reports and tells me that I have stage 4 prostate cancer. And then he says there's no cure for this. Goes through the explanation of treatments that I can receive, hormone treatments, chemotherapy, and when those stop working, well, then that's the end. He goes through the list of harsh side effects, and now my fear has elevated even higher. I remember driving home, looking at my wife and saying, we need a miracle. We get home, call our adult children and tell them the bad news, share with a few friends, and we still have no idea what to do. The doctors along the way had warned me, don't go on the internet. There's all kinds of scary stories on the internet, just stay away from that. But I thought to myself, I'll call a friend. I had a friend who lived out of the area, a man of faith, and I wanted him to pray for me. So I called Ken and Barb, and I shared with them my story, all upset, full of anxiety. And Ken cuts in and says, now just wait a minute. He said, Mike, get a piece of paper and a pencil. He said, I'm going to give you a phone number, and when you hang up from me, you call this number. And then he says these amazing words. He says, Mike, they're curing cancer in Mexico. And all of a sudden, hope begins to restore. I race downstairs to share the good news with my wife, Tara, and I say, Tara, we're going to Mexico.
And I hear, Mexico? Mexico, you're kidding me. And I just felt myself starting to shut down. I could see his mouth moving, but I wasn't hearing his words. And then it wasn't long until our friends started sending pictures on their phone of this facility. And I thought, okay, I'll look at a few. And I was just amazed at how modern the facility looked, how clean and bright. And I could see nurses and doctors and therapists. I could see medical equipment. And so I started opening my heart to this. And when I could see his hope being restored after I thought I had already lost him, I thought, I have got to open my mind to this. So we brought our family together, as Mike said, and we prayed that if this was the direction that we were to go, that he would be accepted into the program, that a bed would be available, and that we could come up with the finances to afford this trip.
There's a time difference between where we live in Scottsdale, Arizona, and Mexico. So we were talking to the patient advocate, and she cared about us immediately, asked us about our story, showed compassion when we told her what we'd been through, how we'd had to wait, what the bad news felt like, and she immediately identified with us, shared her story with us. And then she began to talk about the treatments that we would receive if we chose New Hope, and how they were curing cancer in Mexico. And we got all excited. She said, the challenge for you will be now you need your paperwork and to send it to us. Little did she know the doctor had handed us the papers before we left his office. We had them in hand. So back home, it was evening. In Scottsdale, Arizona, it was afternoon. So we immediately faxed our paperwork off to Arizona. Later that evening, I had tried to make contact with my sister, and she didn't answer her phone. I wanted her to know the good news, because I had devastated everybody with the bad news. About 10 o'clock that night, our paperwork's already into New Hope. Jackie had already given us the explanation of what was going on. And my sister texted me and said, sorry it's so late. I immediately called her. And I said, oh, we have such good news. We're going to Mexico for treatment. And she paused and she said, Mike, do you remember if they said anything about dendritic cell therapy? And I said, yeah, they did. Is that good news? And she said, no, Mike, that's great news. Her granddaughter, my great niece, is in cancer research in the United States. 2 years earlier, she'd come home from school on a break. And she shared with her mom and her grandmother how devastated she was that there was a cure for cancer, but you couldn't get the treatment in the USA. Once she heard that that cure was part of the protocol here at New Hope, she said, my uncle couldn't be in a better place. That was Tuesday night. Wednesday, we had all our paperwork in. Wednesday night, we heard back from the doctors. It amazed us. We didn't have to wait this time. Every other time, we had had to painfully wait for any kind of response or any report. Thursday, our paperwork came from Scottsdale that we would fill out. We had been accepted, and now they needed all these papers filled out. And by Thursday night, we were sending them back. The bed was still open, and we were on our way to New Hope. We packed Friday. Saturday night, a group of family and friends gathered for prayer and support. And Sunday morning, we loaded on an airplane and began our journey to New Hope.
So our first stop was in Yuma, Arizona. We were to spend the night there before New Hope came and picked us up to take us across the border. As you can imagine, it was kind of a sleepless night, fear of the unknown. And we got up that next morning and we were instructed to meet Dr. Branyan in the
Hotel lobby.
In the lobby at 10 o'clock. And we did that. And she was there with the head nurse from New Hope. And it was not long until I began to just sense the compassion she had for all of us, including the caregivers. She spoke of what we would be experiencing in the 12 days to come, and her passion for these treatments became just so evident, and just how much she believed in what she was doing. So the fear started to come down. We loaded in the van and headed towards the border. And in my mind I thought, okay, how is this going to go? So because we were in a medical van that had the New Hope name on it, we were allowed to go right to the front of the line. We didn't have to wait. The official comes to our van, recognizes the van, recognizes the driver, does what she needs to do, and within minutes, we're on our way. It was no problem at all. And that made me feel so much like, hey, New Hope is legitimate. They recognize them at the border. They seem to respect them at the border. No problem. And it was just minutes after that we arrived at the hospital.
The short trip from the border to the hospital, I was captivated just looking around. I didn't really know what to expect. The patient advocate had talked to us about San Luis Rio, Colorado, the name of this city, being one of the safest cities in Mexico. And so just kept looking around, and all of a sudden we make a sharp turn and there's New Hope right in front of me. And to my amazement, the nurses, staff, therapists, and doctors were all waiting outside for us. Mm-hmm. We had never received this kind of a welcome before. You know, we'd sit in doctor's offices and hospitals, and people were okay with us being there, but everyone was smiling here. We get out of the van and they're hugging us. They take our luggage to our room, and then the therapies begin. There was no waiting even here. They were doing what they needed to do immediately. And with each new therapy, someone was there to explain to me exactly why they were doing this and what was going to happen as a result of it. I had listened to all those horrible stories about the side effects back in the United States, and here I was reassured over and over again. If there are side effects, they are insignificant, maybe a headache, maybe a flu-like symptom, but I wasn't going to lose my hair. I wasn't going to be vomiting. I wasn't going to be going through any of the terrible things that were concerning me. We loved the staff and the nurses from the very beginning, and that only has increased over time with our experience. And the treatment's very mild.
So you're with the staff for 12 days. And so, as you can imagine, we have gotten to know them very, very well. Being here with them has really changed us. They are so full of care and kindness towards us, and always, always hope and positive attitudes. All the staff, whether they are cleaning our toilet, making our food, the doctors, the nurses, the therapists, those that are in administration, the receptionists, all of them, all positive. And not only towards Mike, but towards me as the caregiver. They make my bed. They make my food. They do my laundry. The staff not only cares about Mike's body and helping with his healing, but they care about our hearts. And we feel that every minute that we're here.
If you're watching this as a victim of cancer, you'll know right away how hard it is to maintain a positive attitude, how hard it is to be hopeful. And I can remember what it was like the first time I got upset here at New Hope, and the staff was there immediately, helping reassure me they were going to take care of me. I was going to get through this. We were going to beat cancer together. It was amazing. Upon our preparation for departure, Tara and I talked about how we had been transformed. We came here frightened, almost as small children, unaware of what was going to go on, but having a bit of hope and a little trust. Now we were leaving, as Tara said, changed people. We were now equipped, trained, prepared to change our diet, our lifestyle, whatever needed to be changed on this cancer journey to grant us health and hope and a strong future together. New Hope deserves its name because that's what they did for us. They brought us hope. We traveled home, different people, anticipating being able to share with our family what it was like to be cared about in such an amazing way. But the treatment didn't end then. New Hope has followed up consistently. And every time I get upset, there's somebody at the other end of the line to help me understand that they're still in this with me. They're not giving up. We're going to win this battle together. So I want to say thank you to New Hope today.
Yes, me too.